Rip City Mornings.
Lots to discuss with friend of the program, back on the big show, founder, CEO, head writer of the I-5 Corridor, Tyson Alger, back on the big show. Good morning, Tyson. How are you?
I'm doing really good this morning, Justin. Thanks for having me on. How are you?
I'm fantastic. I got a lot of fun stuff to talk to you about because, December has kind of changed in college football. This used to be a little bit of a lull where we would look forward to the Meineke Car Care Bowl on a Tuesday because it gave us something to watch and talk about as college football fans. And well, we got portal drama, we've got recruiting drama. Is Chip Kelly trying to steal Oregon's quarterback? More on that in a moment. We got all sorts of stuff. December has really kind of changed these last couple of years in college football.
Yeah, I think the visual that comes to mind to me of when it changed is I remember in 2017 as Oregon was getting ready for the Vegas Bowl and Mario Cristobal had just been named, or he was interim, he had just been named head coach. And I just remember him and Marcus Arroyo getting on a helicopter after the intro press conference in Vegas to go out recruit some. It was just ridiculous stuff like that because it was the first year of the early signing period, and it's the bowl game almost seems like it's the side dish to everything else that's going on right now. Between, it was crazy enough with the early signing day and now the portal, and the fact that because of those two things, you have a crazy coaching carousel as well. It's it's turned into definitely a full year thing here.
All right, let's talk about Oregon real quick and recruiting. I know we talked about it last week. Bo Nix decided that he's going to play in the bowl game. I, of course, read that as he loves all of us at Oregon, and he definitely wants to stay. But continuing into me reading between the lines, Oregon got a pretty big wide receiver transfer, a kid named Trayshawn Holden out of Alabama. It was a big-time recruit. He decides to transfer to Oregon. And again, Tyson, I don't have any sources. I don't have any inside knowledge. I just got, my eyes that are still 20/20 in my mid-40s. And, if a big-time transfer out of Alabama at wide receiver decides to make a change, I don't think he goes to a school that doesn't know who's going to be their quarterback, right?
Yeah, you would think he'd want a little bit of stability, right?
Or maybe he knows something we don't know. It hasn't been officially announced, but maybe he knows.
Yeah, it's funny because there's so many things that try to throw you off the scent too. I saw an Instagram post last night from Bucky Irving, and he was having dinner with a lot of the senior offensive linemen along with Bo Nix, and he had a caption that was really going to miss these guys or something like that, and everyone's sounding all the alarms. It's what's he talking about? It could very well just be that he was having dinner with senior offensive linemen and didn't specify it. You know what I mean? It's just this is silly season. Every little thing that comes across, you can look towards it. Or, find something from it. But yeah, I think between the bowl game, between some of the moves that have come in the portal, I don't know. I would lean towards still second week in a row on your radio show here, Justin. I would lean towards him coming back next year.
Well, again, kind of deciphering the Bucky Irving thing. And again, I kind of had to, at first I was whoa, what does he mean by all this? And then also you think these kids post everything on social media, Tyson. These kids are 20 years old. After the bowl game, they are going on Christmas break. That could be I'm going to miss these guys because we're going on Christmas break and I'm not going to see them till spring football because they're kids and 3 months seems like 3 years to them.
The other thing, too, is if, I was 20 and I knew that anything I posted on social media would turn into radio fodder at 8:30 the next morning, I might mess with people occasionally. I might be purposely vague because that would be fun to me. And I don't think that's a reflection on me as a person, I think. But, yeah, it's just, it could be a million different things, and it turns December into a pretty fun time for us.
One last thing on Oregon football, because obviously the Holiday Bowl is still a couple of weeks away, which we'll dive into that the next couple of times you come on the show. But I try not to dive into recruiting. It is a swimming pool I don't want to jump into, Tyson. It's way too crowded, and I'll be honest, it's not sanitary for me. But every once in a
So
while.
were you pushing me in?
I'm just saying, every once in a while we got to dabble our toes, right? Every once in a while we got to get into we got to get to the shallow end of the recruiting pool, because it seemed as though Dante Moore, the kid out of the number 2 quarterback in the country out of Detroit, that was Dan Lanning's big time recruit. And people, of course, because we're crazy, are like, if Bo Nix leaves, is he going to start as a true freshman? And now all of a sudden, because recruiting is weird and commitments from high school kids turns out aren't legally binding, this kid's visiting Chip Kelly at UCLA. Ohio State's trying to get into the mix. I mean, what a weird time from a guy that looked like it was a done deal. He's committed. He's coming to Oregon, and now you got to battle Chip Kelly for this kid.
Well, I think that's kind of what you're signing up for when you're competing for that level of a quarterback recruit. And just because a guy commits to you months ago, nothing's signed yet. And I think there's so much on the line for all these programs, and there's a newfound ability to suddenly sway somebody's mind as well. I mean, I know I'm not so certain with this program, but I know there's other schools that still encourage their recruits to take your visits, make sure you want to go to this school. But I mean, with Oregon's offensive coordinator gone, with kind of the Bo Nix rumors swirling of whether he may or not return, it's not a great visual a week before signing day. I understand why Oregon fans are a little angsty about it, but I mean, we'll see. Me, similar to you, I don't like jumping in that pool that often, but this is juicy. And can you imagine if Chip is the one who ends up stealing the 5-star quarterback, that the type of quarterback he never really tried to recruit during his time at Oregon anyways. That could be fun.
I mean, of all the coaches in the country that could be that Oregon fans could be worried about, of course it would be Chip Kelly, because Oregon fans, there's still magic in that Chip visor, right? There's something there. Don't let him around our brand new 5-star. Go ahead.
I just wanted to add though, I mean, the last time Oregon kind of flirted with a quarterback of this profile, it was DJU, who ended up going to Clemson. And he was supposed to be, the next Cam Newton, surefire, start as a freshman, going to win multiple national titles. And he struggled over there. And so it's just, these things aren't 100% sure things. And the Ducks have seen that too with Ty Thompson on their bench. But, and the irony of the whole thing is DJU is a candidate to land at Oregon now here as a transfer too. So I think the Ducks are kind of preparing themselves just in case, there's some movement here in the next week or so.
But also could get really interesting, because I looked at there's an offshore place where you can bet on everything, and right, UCLA is kind of the tops because DJ Uiagalelei is from Southern California. Oregon is number 2, and I'm assuming that's with a big fat asterisk, because we all know Bo Nix is coming back. But if he didn't, obviously Oregon would be in the mix. And then a couple of teams down, there's Oregon State, ho-hum, 9-3, looking to go 10-3 on the season against Florida. Their coach just got a big fat extension. They need a quarterback. They're on the West Coast. I mean, what a crazy time to think DJ Uiagalelei could even realistically think about transferring to Oregon State, but it's not that crazy.
I like that you're flaunting your radio chops there by nailing his last name. I was completely avoiding it. And we'll also know
it's like Giannis Antetokounmpo. I took the time to learn it. I'm saying it. We're not calling him Giannis or DJU. I figured out how to pronounce it, so we're saying it.
I'm also assuming if he does land at Oregon State and you're not on the radio the next week, it's safe to assume you hit the jackpot on that offshore bet, right?
Yeah, I nailed it. You know me, I really want big-time quarterbacks to go to Oregon State. That's really what I want.
I think that would be awesome if he did end up at Oregon State. And I just for the sake of, especially us over at the I-5 corridor, we've been harping on Oregon State for being they were a quarterback away from being a playoff team this year, legitimately. If they had a quarterback, they beat USC this season. If they have a quarterback, I'm getting ahead of myself. But I think just for Oregon State to go from 1-11 or whatever it was in Smith's first season to then land the former number 1 overall recruit in the country, that would be pretty spicy going into next season.
Tyson Alger, the I-5 corridor, joining us here on 620 Rip City Radio. Let's talk about Oregon State. Jonathan Smith, kind of as I would think a tip of the cap to Colorado and Dion, who kind of reset the market a little bit. But 9 wins also gets you sprinkles on your Sunday, and he gets himself a nice $30.6 million contract extension, averages out to about $5 million per. But Tyson, this is where I'm intrigued by it. Because with big fat paychecks come big fat expectations. And I think Oregon State fans are pretty realistic as to where they want the program to be. But now their coach is higher paid than Oregon's coach for the time being. We'll see after Phil Knight goes down to Eugene, and we'll see how this recruiting cycle goes. But he's higher paid than the Oregon coach. He's beaten Oregon 2 out of 3 years. What do you think now in terms of the expectation game comes down on Jonathan Smith, who was given a lot of patience to build this program up, but now you got the contract, you got the wins. Where do the expectations level go?
Yeah, it's definitely a big contract, and that does bring more pressure. But like, I also don't think it was like an outlandish contract.
No.
I mean, it's not like they're paying him. This is like half of what Cristobal got at Miami, and this is a guy who has built something. The expectations are there because of what he's brought forth the last 4 plus seasons, and so I think it's one that is kind of works out nicely for both parties. But yeah, like I think the expectation now is with what they've turned this program into, like they should be continually competing at least for Pac-12 title berths, if not Pac-12 titles, and which seems like completely crazy to say because I've been coming on your radio show for like I think probably 2 years consistently now, and even last year it was still like if they get to the bowl game, and like it's been an awfully impressive build, and I don't think this is a crazy contract for somebody who has basically has completely changed the face of that program. So yeah, expectations are going to be high, especially with what they've done this year. But I think they both are going to be pretty happy with the situation.
Tyson Alger of the I-5 Corridor joining us here on 620 Rip City Radio. Beavers taking on the Florida Gators. I have always been, and I think I'm kind of in the minority, but I still believe I'm right. Bowl games outside of the New Year's Six, outside of the college football playoff, are a nice reward. It's a nice experience. But in my opinion, Tyson, winning or losing does not really have an effect on your program in any way, shape, or form. I will throw an asterisk, however, when you are a team like Oregon State and you are building up your profile, you are building up your program, and while Florida is very mediocre and Florida has a lot of guys not participating in this game, I still think there is something to, hey, Oregon State's playing the Florida Gators on Saturday, and I do think that can maybe get some eyeballs on your program. I think this is kind of a big-time opportunity for Oregon State because of the history, not necessarily of the team, but the history of the Florida Gators.
Oh, 100%. And just like one thing, like how often is Oregon State on TVs in Florida? Like not very often, I would assume. And so like this is going to be a chance for them to kind of expand their overall reach and getting on the radar of more recruits. But yeah, like it's Florida, it's Oregon State versus Florida. Like that's a big, like that's bigger than Oregon versus North Carolina. Like that carries way more cachet. And you can go back to, bringing up Oregon again, the 2018, I hated the bowl game, but the Red Box Bowl when they played Michigan State and they won that thing like 7-6. And
so
it was the most pull your hair out football game I've ever experienced. But like that meant something to that program because that was a program that hadn't done that before, that hadn't experienced that success and hadn't really like on that type of platform beat a Michigan State type of team. And so I do think that you can carry momentum from that. And again, as we've seen with Oregon, like a bad bowl game loss can really affect your future too. I don't want to go and rehash the Alamo Bowl, but that definitely had some hangover going into the next season. So I know things are different now. That was 7 years ago, and that was before guys were opting out and the transfer portal and all of the coaching carousel. But I do, for a program that's in the place that Oregon State is on the come up, I think this is a huge bowl game and a huge opportunity for them.
Real quick, because I know you covered the Vegas Bowl, Cristobal's first year, right? You were there.
Correct.
That debacle against Boise State when it was clear, like Royce Freeman opted out, but he still gets to be on the sidelines and giving a pump-up speech about how they should play hard, but he didn't want to play hard. And questionable, from my opinion, as a fan. In terms of bowl games you have covered, not the Rose Bowl, because any of us that have been lucky enough to cover the Rose Bowl, Tyson, that's the best, right? I mean, even the national title that I was lucky enough to cover back in 2010, I think you were there in 2014. The Rose Bowl is still the best.
Andrew Greif and I talk about this consistently. There's nothing like the Rose Bowl. Like the national championship wasn't really all that much fun. Even it was just a lot of work and a bad football game. Like the Rose Bowl is sunshine and pageantry and happy fan base.
So outside of the Rose Bowl and the New Year's Six, where does the Vegas? Because producer Brendan, he's flying out to Vegas tonight. He's going to be covering his very first Vegas Bowl as a media member. Hopefully, he makes it to the game at 11:30. He likes to drink vodka Red Bulls. So I'm just wondering where would you rank in terms of media member snootiness coverage? Where is the Vegas Bowl?
Well, it's changed since the last time I went there because now it's in the newer stadium. I mean, last time it was at UNLV's old one, and like that's kind of it's worse than Oregon State's half stadium right now. And so that was a pretty depressing bowl game because there wasn't a ton of media there. It was kind of it just wasn't a great scene. But this one's a little bit different. Like Allegiant's like an amazing facility. Like Florida's a big opponent. I would rank, this is not top tier obviously, but like this is I'd watch it. Like I'm looking forward to it type of bowl game, Did
you get a good how was the media gift for the Vegas Bowl? Do you remember it?
It was socks.
Oh, terrible.
Yeah.
Terrible.
Yeah.
All right, we just broke Brendan's heart. Tyson Alger, the I-5 Corridor, joining us on 620 Rip City Radio. One more thing, because we have to get one non-sports topic in. Have you ever worked in food service, Tyson?
I haven't actually. I've only either mowed lawns or written great words.
Because I was wondering, I every once in a while we play a little game because I get a little self-conscious and I get inside my own head of like, is it rude? If you are at like a place where you are sitting down and it is clear it's table service. I know you go to the finest restaurants on the I-5 Corridor tab. And it's clear that like the server, through no fault of their own, it's the system's fault, has forgotten about your table or has missed a rotation. Do you give like the wave down or you just suck it up and wait?
How long is the potential wait?
I'm going to say like 5 minutes without a drink.
I think if it's 5 minutes, I'm probably the pacifist.
Yeah.
But that's my personality. I actually do respect people who are forward enough to be like, hey waiter, because like that's just not in my personality. But I don't think it's out of turn, especially if you're tipping, like that's for service, right? Like, I don't know. I'm going to stop now. I don't want to say anything.
Well, I just feel, again, like I have nothing but respect for anybody who works in the service industry. I personally could not do it. The temperament and the patience that they have, I have all the respect in the world. I don't blame them. I blame the system. I think the system is just it's an antiquated. We have technology at our fingertips, Tyson. How have we not implemented this more in service where now we're humans needing to take a look and see that your beer is close to needing a refill and maybe add can we fix this with technology?
You know what? I'll put it this way. I think I found a new perspective on this. Is I actually appreciate when people point out typos in my stories because I write so much I can't possibly keep track of all of them, and I would like that to be better. I would like to fix that. So if somebody lets me know, like we're all good. And so I think that's a similar situation in the waiter thing. Like they want your beer full. They just have a lot of things. But if you incorporate technology, like. The waiters might be gone in the future too. So
we don't want to eliminate jobs. No, I don't need robots taking over my jobs. Even though I dare somebody to invent a robot for my hot takes. Elon, challenge. All right. Now we've gone completely off the rails, which means it's time to say goodbye to Tyson. Hey, Tyson, thanks so much, bud. You can follow him at Tyson Alger on Twitter. You can subscribe to the I-5 Corridor, i-5corridor.com. Like and subscribe, all that fun stuff. Tyson, have a terrific week. We'll talk to you next week.
Hey, thanks, buddy.